How is endometrial cancer staged?
So the most kind of classic, rigorous way to stage endometrial cancer is through a surgical procedure. So what that usually involves is it does include a hysterectomy, removing the uterus and the cervix. Usually also includes removing the fallopian tubes and the ovaries. And at the same time, the surgeon will do a very thorough assessment of the abdominal pelvic cavity, basically kind of looking around all those areas to see if there's any signs of visible disease, anything they can see that looks like it could be tumor deposits, in the abdominal cavity. If anything is seen, those deposits would be removed and biopsied. So that's part of the staging procedure. And additionally, it's important to try to assess the lymph nodes typically. So there are lymph nodes in the pelvic area and then higher up along the aortic area. And so there's different surgical techniques that we can use to basically test or sample some of those lymph nodes, be able to remove them, send them to the pathologist, look under the microscope to see if there's any microscopic cancer cells that have traveled to those lymph nodes. Mm-hmm. So that is all part of a surgical procedure. And with all the information collected from those tissue samples that are removed from the body and sent to the pathologist, but the pathologist then reviews all of that under a microscope and then can issue a very thorough report describing where the cancer cells are located. Mm-hmm. And by definition, where the cancer cells are located then defines what the stage is of the cancer.
Can you give me an example?
Of course. So, for example, if the cancer cells are located only in the uterus and they're not found anywhere else, then that is a stage 1. If the cancer cells have traveled to the cervix area, specifically this, we call it cervical stroma, that becomes a stage 2. If the cancer cells have, for example, traveled to the fallopian tubes or the ovaries or the lymph nodes, then that becomes a stage 3. And there are sort of sub-stages within those categories as well.
But stage 3 would be the highest or most severe?
So there's stage 3, and then there's actually stage 4. So if the cancer cells have traveled outside of the pelvis into the abdominal area, then we consider that a stage 4.
And that would be considered advanced endometrial cancer?
Right. So by definition, advanced typically refers to stage 3 or 4.